When my son David began high school, I had some worries. Of course, I was concerned about how he'd do in high school, but I was also thinking about how he'd do after high school. Would David be able to support himself? Would he have a good life? I have fewer worries now. David's out of school and he's doing great. How did my son get from point A to point B? Let's start with his 9th grade IEP meeting. It was at this meeting that I first met David's high school IEP team. They talked a lot about the transition planning that would help him gain the skills he needed to move into adulthood. And I knew that the earlier the transition planning began, the more likely it was to help David. The team talked about serving David over a 7-year period until he was 21. This would expand the amount of training in life and employment skills he'd receive, all for free, as a part of his public education. David was invited to this meeting, and I encouraged him to attend so he could be part of the process. He did attend, but he stayed quiet throughout most of the meeting. David did, however, like his special education case manager, and they talked after the meeting and started building a relationship that would greatly help David over the years. David and I were also given a copy of the MSDE Transition Planning Guide. The IEP team reviewed the guide for us and gave us a good idea of the types of services that would be available to David after he left public education. In David's sophomore year of high school, there were some new folks at his IEP meeting. These people were from DOORS, the Maryland Division of Rehabilitation Services, and they would be working with David on all kinds of transition issues, both during and after his public education. I was grateful that they were working with him. In fact, seeing how hard everyone on David's team worked for him made it easier for me to strike a balance between what I wanted for my son, the moon, and what I could reasonably expect the school to provide for him. What I most remember about David's junior and senior years of high school is that he started his first job. His special education case manager had plenty of long talks with David and had always listened to what my son had to say. Now, the case manager helped find a work experience placement for David at our local supermarket. David started out emptying boxes and stocking shelves. He liked the repetitive nature of the work, the new friends he made, and the feeling of importance the work gave him. A transition coordinator from the school system would periodically come and evaluate how David was doing at work. And this feedback was given to the case manager, who then targeted specific skills that David needed to improve. David did so well that he was promoted to bagging groceries and hired as a real employee outside of school. This was a bigger challenge for him, but David loved it, and it really built his confidence. David was also excited about some of the courses he was taking in school, especially one in horticulture. He's always loved plants. Everyone in David's world could see how much he was blossoming. Last year was the final year of David's public education. His special education case manager was encouraging him to accept another promotion at the supermarket, but David explained that he had other ideas. His horticulture class had motivated him to want a job working with plants. The case manager and I were thrilled that my son was now speaking up for himself and showing even more confidence. Working with the people from DOORS, we eventually found a program that provided horticulture-related vocational training and real jobs for adults with developmental disabilities. David was eligible for the program, and he began working in one of their greenhouses. Now, David's finished with his public education. He's thriving at the greenhouse, and he is having a good life. I'm so happy that David's become more independent. And at the same time, it's great that he's a part of a larger network that gives him all the support and respect that he deserves.